unfortunately, in 2010, something significant thing happened in my life. The business that was running very smoothly all fell apart. The main owner, he sort of absconded with the money and left us high and dry. When I came back from the airport, my wife says, I've got some bad news for you. I said, listen, I just came back from my brother's funeral. He said, no, your other brother passed away as well. So with all these anxieties that I was going through, I had a choice of two things, either to follow Jesus or not to follow him, or follow on my own strength. After going through all the problems that I had no other choice but to follow Jesus and think, God, I have to rely on you. I have to rely on your providence. And I've never looked back since. I can also mention that after all these experiences, I can only tell you that Jesus is my life and my Savior. He has changed my life, He changed my family's life, and to rely on Him. He is my God and Savior, and I love Him so much. Hi, my name is Soma Muthucumaru. I was born a Hindu to a wonderful family of 8 siblings, all Orthodox Hindus. Growing up, I've always relied on going to temples, following practices that my mom and dad taught me. Going to temples, following the rituals, practices that they always taught us, but never really understanding a lot of the theological part of it, because Hinduism was such that was done, the priest was saying everything in Sanskrit, which I couldn't really understand, and a lot of us couldn't understand. In fact, my mom and dad, I used to ask them, hey, what's going on? What is this? And they even couldn't tell me what was going on. They just said, come on, just follow what we used to do. There's a God, we know there's a God. I remember also in the house we used to have an altar there with all sorts of different gods. One God is for finance, one God is for education, one God is for this, that, and the other. And I saw Mother Mary's photo there as well. And I just wonder, I just assumed that she was another form of a God, but never really understand a lot of those things that really was bugging me. Even when I was in school as well, I was following up with friends who were also mostly Hindus and Buddhists and Catholic, 1 or 2 Catholics, but they never really shared a lot about Catholicism, so we just kept it at that level. Years passed by, my life charted out as well, in a strange, charted out that my life was all, because she believed in superstition, numerology. And I used to wonder, why did she do all these things? Why did she have to do? But she was sort of accustomed. She was accustomed to do all these things. She was told that, other people used to do that, so we used to do that as well. So you must follow this, you must follow that. I couldn't really understand what she was doing all these things for. But being a young man, also friends, we just wanted to have a good time and good life, and never really gave much thought to God, believing in God. Of course, we knew there was a God, but never really understanding Him on an intimate way. When I was 17 years of age, my dad sent me away to town in Kuala Lumpur to do my further education. There I stayed with my uncle's house, and he was married to a Catholic, my auntie was a practicing Catholic. Anyhow, I stayed there for 2 years, went to college there, never really got to know the religion of Catholicism, although my auntie never shared it with us. I was just practicing my own faith, which is the Hindu faith. But I bumped into a girl who was a Catholic. So she became my girlfriend at that point in time. She introduced me to Catholicism, started talking to me about the Catholic, about Jesus, which I never really believed before. And I used to have a lot of arguments, so I was never interested. So she sort of took a step back, didn't want to have a lot of altercation with me. So we kept it at that level with friends. In 1975, my dad sent me away to UK to further my education, study accounting in London. And that's where I went to study and work. I studied there for 3 years, started working about 7 years in an accounting firm. In 1980, my dad passed away while I was in England. When I went to England, I missed his funeral for 1 or 2 days. I missed his funeral for 2 days, and that sort of bugged me a lot. When I returned back to UK to carry on with my work there, fortunately, at that point in time, my girlfriend also joined me to do her education as well. My life became a lot better since she came back because there was a bit more of a semblance of normality in my life. Prior to that, it was just quite bad. My girlfriend sort of encouraged me to go for a pilgrimage that was organized by Sister Pius, who was attached to one of the church, St. Thomas More Church in London. Anyhow, I decided to go and just to keep her company, and never really thought much about converting then. Just to keep her company, I just needed a break from my father's passing away. Anyhow, we went for that particular week. I stayed quite close to Lourdes, but I never really indulged too much into all this prayers and going to masses or whatever. I, in the meantime, was enjoying myself going up, hiking up the Pyrenees and traveling here and there. I didn't really want to do much with all this. But anyhow, one day, towards the end of our trip, she sort of encouraged me, hey, come on, at least one day, just come towards the Mass and see how, experience yourself. So I sort of relented. So I went one day into that church. Literally, there was thousands of people there, and all different kind of people. And I'm wondering, there's Europeans, Africans, this, that, and the other, all speaking in one language. And I was quite amazed by that, and it sort of touched me. And then she encouraged me to go into this bath. It's like a miracle bath. I was wondering, what is this about? And I remember dipping myself just for the fun of it. I was not really religious, so I just dipped. Something there is where I think a seed was planted in me. And today I really thank God for showing me that path to that eternity. I carried on from there, returned to London with my girlfriend and started wanting to go to church. So she encouraged me to go to a Catholic church. We went there, listened to Mass, and I began to understand a lot of things that the priest was saying. Everything was in English, not in Sanskrit, like how Hindus was. And I then sort of became very close to God in that sense. I began to have a sense of wanting to know more about God. Sister Pius, in the meantime, was encouraging me to go and attend Bible with my girlfriend. We went, but it never really struck me much because it was like a story for me. It was like a fairy tale, a story from the Old Testament. But anyhow, I kept persevering. She kept praying for me. I kept praying as well, seeking God. And then finally, I decided to tell Sister Pius I wanted to be a convert. I wanted to be a Catholic. So everything was organized. In 1984 Easter, I was supposed to be a convert into the Catholic faith. My girlfriend and I were supposed to get married, in December, but her mother sort of told her, hey, don't get married yet, return to Malaysia just for 2 weeks. So when she returned, when she went to Malaysia and came back to London, she became a Pentecostal, and she said we were not compatible anymore. And that sort of shook me a lot, and I became to doubt Christianity. I was wondering, here I am going toward Christianity, and here she is changing my mind about different sects of Christianity. But Sister Pius fortunately persevered, prayed a lot for me, and she became my sponsor and my godmother. So in April 1984, I got baptized, confirmed all at the same time. After that, I thought it was like a magic. Everything will disappear, all my pains and all will disappear. But I fell back into my normal ways, that I began to go into church only on Sundays, not wanting to do more because I had this trouble with my former girlfriend. And there was a lot of issues in me, it was bugging me. So I was wondering myself, did I do the right thing? But of course, God had a plan for me. He showed me the path toward getting to know Him. In 1987, I decided to migrate to Perth because there was a lot of pressures on me because of my breakdown with my ex-girlfriend. I seeked a new opportunity, and also Perth is closer to Malaysia, which is only about 5 hours away. I decided to migrate. Fortunately, I got it quite easily. In 1990, it was my birthday, and I met my wife for the first time. Her name is Francisca. In fact, she was attending her sister's party at the same time. But being my birthday, I was also invited to her sister's party. So I went there, met her for the first time, but nothing really came out of it. But the funny thing is, I went back for my father's anniversary, 10th year anniversary, and she went back to Malaysia to go back to work, and I bumped into her there as well. I sort of invited her for a dinner, and I said I was going to get married to you. She was, of course, flabbergasted. She couldn't believe what I said. But so she said, okay, we will start communicating. So we were communicating over the letters, and then 2 years later, we decided to get married. It was January 1992 when we got married. We've now got 3 children. We brought them to Catholic schools, primary school, and also the Catholic education, which is the high school, Corpus Christi. In 2007, I had the opportunity to work for a finance company in Perth. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed what I was doing. A year later, the owner decided to give me a partnership into that firm. So I took up the opportunity, invested some money in that. Everything was going smoothly. We were doing so well, enjoyed ourselves, heaps of money then. We could travel here and we travel there and having a good life, basically sending my children to private school, Catholic schools. Didn't have a worry in that sense. And unfortunately, in 2010, something significant thing happened in my life. The business that was running very smoothly all fell apart. The main person, the main owner, he sort of absconded with the money and left us high and dry. Overnight, everything we lost. We lost our income, our investment, and I was quite shocked. We didn't know what to do. My wife was not working then, and I had to support my 3 children who were all in private school. So we were wondering, how are we going to cope with this? Then in November 2010, not only did the business fall apart, 2 of my brothers passed away in Malaysia. I went back for my oldest brother's funeral. After 8 days, I returned back to Perth. And when I opened the door, when I came back from the airport, my wife says, I've got some bad news for you. I said, listen, I just came back from my brother's funeral. He said, no, your other brother passed away as well. I was quite struck by that. I had a lot of anxiety issues, so I forced myself to go back for his funeral, came back, and I was thinking, these guys are pretty young. They're only 60-something, they passed away. And there were a lot of anxiety issues in me. Business went down, and then my brother's passing away. The children all were school still. And I was wondering, how are we going to cope? A lot of pressures on me. My wife was trying to support me as well. She couldn't find a job at that point in time. But God had other ideas. So with all these anxieties that I was going through, I had a choice of two things, either to follow Jesus or not to follow him, or follow on my own strength. After going through all the problems that I had no other choice but to follow Jesus and think, God, I have to rely on you. I have to rely on your providence. And I've never looked back since. During this point in time where I started relying on God, something happened to my wife that was such a blessing. She has never worked in Australia before. For the first time, she was called upon by a school to work for 3 months. Now, any job that would be taken would be fantastic because I was not working then. So she started going for 3 months contract she had. Whatever little food that she brought for us was enough for us to sustain us. But still our mortgages were not paid because they were increasing and increasing. So that was one anxious part that we still have to deal with. I kept on going, and then in 2013, while I was playing squash, after playing squash, I returned home. I was having heart attacks. My wife took me up to the Fremantle Hospital. Within a space of a couple of hours, I was already back in the ward with one stent in my heart. Fortunately, I had my attack in the hospital itself. Aside from that, as I said, I didn't have any private health cover then because I lost everything. But through God's intervention, I didn't have to pay a single cent. Everything was paid for. And you can see the hand of God there already. Also, in 2013, one day the principal's secretary called me up and she said, listen, Soma, your fees are well past due already. When are you going to pay the bill? It's already mounted up to quite a lot of money. So anyhow, I decided to go up there, not having any money to pay her. And she asked me, how much can you pay to settle your account? Because it's already towards the end of the year. I said, listen, I didn't have much at all. I can't pay you anything. She said, just write down what you can afford. We have to close this off, the account. So I said, listen, I'm too embarrassed to tell you. I don't even have a single cent to pay you now. I can't. So she just wrote down from about $8,300. She just told me, she wrote down, pay the $328 and we call it off. It's a goodwill. Now, which God will do that for you? Then another incident happened as well. In 2016, my poor wife has always been very careful. She had cancer. Cancer of the appendix, which is a very unusual sort of cancer. Not realizing that it was, perhaps she had it for about 2 years, so much so that the cancer spread throughout her whole body. That was a shock to us. We couldn't believe it. What am I going to do? My kids were still growing up, still going to school. She is here. The worst case scenario is when she passes away, what's going to happen? So all these thoughts started coming to our minds, but she was very focused on God. She said, God is my provider. He will do something miraculous. Anyhow, 2016, when she had a cancer, she was fortunate enough to have a wonderful specialist who put her in although we didn't have a private cover, she put her in a government hospital, but under the private health care. In other words, she was given a single room. The operation took 24 hours, and she spent 40 days in the hospital after the recovery. It's like about 40 days of her wilderness experience. Came back from the operation, she had the vision of Mother Mary and started talking to her. So today she keeps saying that, So all this is miraculous kind of things that's happening. When she was discharged, we were shocked to realize that the bill was $420,000 because for 40 days you have to pay for the specialists, the chiros, and you have to pay for the pharmacies and all that. But God is a provider. He provided all for us because it was through the government they paid that. After all the blessings that's been happening to me and the way things God has been playing in my part, I was very lucky that one of my friends introduced me to a ministry, an online ministry that I did in the US, that I started doing a course via online. I've started doing the Old Testament, the New Testament, Paul's epistles, and everything was done is for free. You can pay whatever you want to. So I started having a deeper understanding, a lot deeper understanding about the Old Testament, the New Testament, and my faith only increased much exponentially. It's increased incredibly. My wife and I were also doing it together. So she was, certain parts she will leave aside, some parts she will carry on with me because of a time constraint. But I kept on doing these courses, and it only helped me to emphasize the love I have for our God, the blessings that has been flowing up to that. I started relying. I've gone back to my business now that I've only asked that God is only a provider. He's already been providing all the time for me. I started going for confession now almost every other week, once a fortnight at least. I realized that we have to get closer to God and begin to revere God so much more that when I go and receive the Eucharist, I take it in a different perspective now. I begin to realize that that is our Savior, our Jesus, who's in the tabernacle, is sitting in the tabernacle. I started getting involved in my parish. I'm an acolyte in the parish. I help out in the Mass as well. I'm also part of the other ministries that I was also a council member of the parish. I get more involved in the parish, but not anymore. I've already finished my stint with the council members, but I'm still an acolyte in that ministry. As you know, it's Psalm 23 has always stuck my mind. And there's also Matthew, I think it's 6:25, where it says, do not be anxious. Another one is John. Of course, John, I've always a room for you. That is, Jesus already set up a room for us up in heaven already. So we don't have to be worried too much. And I pray that you will have some sort of inspiration, that God will touch you all in your, that it's going to help you focus on God so much, revere Him. He's a wonderful person. His mercy is so wonderful. He's always ever willing to help you. Even if you fall like the prodigal son, He'll always welcome you back. I have been a big sinner in my life. I have done so many bad things in my life, but I know Jesus is there. He's welcomed me back as a prodigal son. I can also mention that after all these experiences, I can only tell you that Jesus is my life and my Savior. He has changed my life. He changed my family's life, and to rely on Him. He is my God and Savior, and I love Him so much.